Should we tell people what is truth and what is not truth? And does truth really exist? That's a good question. Does truth exist, Mark?
Well, I remember an assistant principal that I had, a friend of mine. I was doing moral dilemmas with my students, and his query to me was, whose morality are you arguing for? And I tried to tell him that there really is only one morality. It doesn't make a difference. Something is either right or it's wrong.
But hold on, Mark. Then there are other people of other religions who disagree with you. See, now you got two problems. You're not able to validate. Well, now you're making an objective claim in morality, but that also interferes with everybody else's religions. So now you have to go back and say, well, wait a minute. If I believe that all religions are justified as long as they believe it, then that means I can't agree with the morality statement that I just made. Do you understand your contradiction, Mark? You're saying on one hand, you kind of want to make a cake and eat it too. You want everybody to be happy, and I understand that about you, Mark. I think that's very noble of you. But here's the problem. You got all the religions of the world who do multiple things. Some are justified their moralities, their horrible behavior based in their religion. Now, if you're going to say, well, they can believe it and that should bring them to their God, then you have no right to say what is good and what is evil, what is cruel and what is kind. Everything is blind, pitiless indifference. Do you get it now? Do you understand that you can't say multiple religions are true and still have morality? Morality is just your opinion, Mark.
Well, what I'm relying on is my own history and experience. Okay, from the time...
Okay, but why does that matter to somebody else, Mark? Why does that matter to the guy in Africa who's mutilating women? Why should I care about Mark's morality?
It probably won't make a difference to him or her. To him...
And by the way, lots of people believe you, Mark. Lots of people believe the way you do. I'm just challenging you. I'm having you look at your worldview. Your worldview says, Mark, and by the way, I don't believe that you believe in your worldview. I really don't. Because if somebody broke into your home and raped your family, you would look at that person with the same God-given conscience as the next guy. You think in Africa, just because they sent out a law and a religion that it's okay to mutilate women, that there isn't some husband who wants to kill the guy who did it?
My wife and I had a similar, I guess, discussion just the other day. She knows, in a certain way, she knows that I am anti-death penalty. She is very she is very pro-death penalty. She said to me, now our youngest son is a cop, and she said to me, if God forbid Joshua was killed in the line of duty, you wouldn't want the perpetrator of that crime to be tried and convicted and sentenced to the, to pay with his life. And, you have to understand, I hope it never comes to this, but I said no. Not because the reason being that I want that person to go to prison and I want him to suffer every day of his life. That for him to be put out of his misery, by electricity or by gas or whatever the state declares, is too simple for him. I want him to suffer every day of his life. I want him to beg.
That's right, Mark, because
I want him to beg to die.
Right. Right. But you know what? there's the virtue of forgiveness, which is another immaterial concept. But the reason why you would have that indignation against that person is because there's something inside of you that demands justice. And guess who else demands justice? God. He demands justice every day.
Well,
okay, but you
in the Old Testament,
hold on, Mark, you are reflecting God from the Bible. You are living life as a Christian, but you're denying the God from the Bible with your lips. Do you understand? The reason you would want that guy to go to prison is because you have a sense of justice. Well, how do we know what justice is if God did not exist? We would just simply be indifferent. Our brain chemicals would bump into each other. We would just, whatever our brain chemistry says to do, we don't really have a choice in the matter. It's just brain chemistry. Who cares about brain chemistry? Brain chemistry doesn't determine what's right and wrong. How we feel about our wife and how much we love our family, how much we want to protect our children. Brain chemistry doesn't do that. But you know what does? Morality and logic and reason and love. And that comes from God and God alone. If you cannot correctly define what love is,
I agree with you.
I agree with you
on all of that. And that's why I say that, deep down, I rely very heavily on my religious upbringing as a child.
All right. But you're religious, but you're relying on it, but you're also denying an objectivity. Well, I don't know what kind of religion you believe in. Maybe you believe in a polytheist type of religion. I have no idea, Mark. I can only go based on what's logical at this point. If you believe, for instance, that all faiths lead to God, then we can't blame the Canaanites for killing those infants. We can't blame them. It's not a matter of what we think, whether or not we think it's right and wrong. Of course we think those things are right and wrong. But we can't justify it if there isn't one true God, the living God from the Bible that doesn't exist. Now, it could be that we make mistakes, right? We make mistakes in morality. We make mistakes in logic. But do you know how we fix those problems? By presupposing logic and morality in order to fix it. If I said to you, well, you could be carrying a cup in your right hand and not a cup in your right hand at the same time, I have to go back and use good logic in order to correct myself. Well, how did we get that objectiveness of life? How are we able to explain life? Well, we just do it. Well, right, but I'm asking an ontological question. How is it that we're able to communicate the way that we are? How do we know what love is, for instance? Love. When you hug your mom, you love your wife, you love your children. How do we know that kind of love is the right way? Maybe the one in China is where the men some of them make their women walk behind them, and for a long time, Chinese women were not able to have the relationship with their husband the same way.
I remember, as a young teacher, in an elementary school, there was a father who was convicted of raping his daughter. And the logic that he used, he never said he didn't do it. He said he did do it. He said the logic that he used for doing this was that the odds are that my daughter will be raped, so I want her first. It's almost so difficult to talk about. I wanted her first experience to be a pleasurable one. That's how he justified raping his daughter.
That's horrific. Now, me and you, Mark, would say that's wrong, right?
Oh. I'd like to, if it was up to me, I would take a knife, cut off his genitalia, and shove it down his throat.
Yeah, of course we would. Because we have that wrath, that I believe it's righteous anger, that we hate sin. We don't like it. We don't like it when people do terrible things to each other. But Man, I can't emphasize it.
You know,
enough
I have
more.
a friend. I have a friend whose father sexually abused her. Her mother knew it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the mother did nothing. You know, as is generally the case. I didn't know her then. I don't really know her now, except that we have become friendly. You know, via the internet, and
Okay.
you know, it's amazing what people how people confide in other people. You know, when you really don't know who they are. You know, the anonymity that the internet provides.
Right.
There's certainly no reason for her to say something like that if it wasn't true. So I could understand that somebody might say, well, how do you know she's telling you the truth? Well, you know, someone's not going to make this stuff up.
We hope, anyway.
Okay, you know, they're just not going to make this stuff up. And for years, she, you know, was from a dysfunctional family, you know. And, you know, I say to myself, you know, in a place where, you know, home is supposed to be a safe haven for children, for anyone,
Right.
but especially for children. If you can't find that safe haven in your own home with your parents, what do you do?
Uh-huh. Rely on your brain chemistry. You really the evolution of families just started out of survival. I mean, that's what we're telling people.
I mean, you know,
Well, look,
you can go back.
But love can't be defined that way, Mark. You're talking about deep concepts. You're talking about a concept of love. You're talking about a concept of security, a concept of what is this concept of unconditional love? You know, we're supposed to love our children unconditionally, which means there's nothing outside of your relationship that's supposed to interfere with your love. Okay, do you know where we get that concept from? From God himself. And actually, Jesus had unconditional love. They call it agape love.
God loves you. Okay, God
Yes?
may not
How do you know?
love. God may not love the things that you do, but as a person, and again, if you believe in evolution and you were made, you know, if you believe in creationism,
and who cares about love?
you know, then you know. The bottom line, you know, God created you, so I think I lost my train of thought.
Mark, you're protoplasm. You're protoplasm, man. You're just floating around the universe. Who cares about love?
I know I am.
You have that effect on people there,
Too much,
Chad.
I don't know. I don't even know what I am anymore. Well, no, the point that I wanted to bring up. Hold on, wait. The point that I wanted to bring up, very simply, is that in paradise, in Eden, okay, everybody always asks,
which paradise?
In the Garden of Eden. After Adam and Eve. When Eve had her children and Abel married, well, who did he marry? He married his sister, because in the Old Testament, in those days, they say, well, where did these other people come from? You know, I mean, we ask these questions. We're not really supposed to ask these questions, but it's obvious that it had to be a relative. It had to be a sister. So, I mean, maybe this is how, you know, people who commit incest justify what they're doing. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, but the Bible is pretty clear, and God gave instruction. See, this is all about instruction. Well, you're right. What you're bringing up, Mark, is a great point. How do we know that incest, for instance, is right or wrong? I mean, after all, Cain and Abel had to marry their sisters in order to make more babies.
And God, in the Garden of Eden, God told
permitted
Adam and Eve, be fruitful and multiply. Okay,
That's
well,
right.
if their offspring, how are they going to multiply?